Okay, you guys, this is a simple lesson on graphing the sine and cosine curves, and I'm going to just click through. Okay, so we're going to graph y equals the sine of x, and I'll show you the cosine of x in just a second, and then we'll do a translation on this. Okay, so I'm going to make a t-chart, you guys, x and the sine of x, so y equals the sine of x, so that's like saying x comma y. All right, and we're going to pick some x values that you can take sine values easily from. So hopefully by now you know about the unit circle and what kind of numbers you want to take sine values from. And I'm doing these in radians, you guys, so make sure your calculators are in radians. So here we go. We have so from 0 to 2 pi, and I went into pi over 4 cutoffs, you guys. So and then you can just punch and make sure your calculators are in radians, and then punch in the sine of 0 and the sine of pi over 4 and the sine of pi over 2 and so on. So hopefully you have a calculator that can pick those up for you. And when I graph those guys, I'm going to make a graph from 0 to 2 pi. And notice these values only go from maximum to 1 and maximum to negative 1. So I have my y values right here from 1 to negative 1 right here. And then so I'm just cutting up my charts. There's pi over 2's, and I want to go to pi over 4. So there's all my my sine family numbers right there. Okay, and then when I graph those, you guys, so I just graphed, okay, here's 0, 0. Here's pi over 4, 0.707 about. Here's pi over 2, 1. Here's 3 pi over 2, which is 0.707. It's all these that I got down over here. Okay, they're all those right there. And so that's a sine wave. And when you connect all of those, you guys, there's a typical sine wave. And it doesn't stop there, you guys. It keeps going and going. There's one period of a sine right there. It's one cycle of a sine. So, and it just keeps going on and on. So one period is called in precalculus is in 2 pi radians. Okay, and you can keep going and going and going. So, so properties of a sine curve. See, now there's a sine curve from 2 pi, so it keeps going to negative 2 pi, and this is my gimmick on how I teach kids to memorize this. Sine curve, the period is 2 pi. Okay, the domain is the set of real numbers. The range always goes goes up to 1 and down to 1, and up to 1 and down to 1. It never goes past that for y equals the sine of x. Okay, it's my buddy Kevin. Okay, the range is, let's see, it starts and ends at 0. Here's the trick right here. Okay, so right here it starts, whoops, right here it starts and ends at 0. Okay, that's that first part, and then it's halfway at 0, and then halfway at 1, halfway at negative 1, and it keeps doing that. So over here, starts and ends at 0, halfway at 0, halfway at 1, halfway at negative 1. Okay? All right, pretty groovy. So you can it just keeps going and going and going. I can go to the left forever and to the right forever. Okay, so I get y equals, here's we're going to graph y equals the sine of x for, from the interval 3 pi to 5 pi. Okay? And so it's just, you just follow that cycle, and it goes from 3 pi to 5 pi, and that would be your graph right there. Okay, so just follow that cycle, starts and ends at 0, halfway at 0, halfway at 1, halfway at negative 1. Okay, so let's try y equal cosine of x. Okay, same thing, going to make a t-chart, and I get those values. Hopefully your calculator is in radians, and it should be. And then so there's my chart right there, and then there's a cosine curve right there. It's all these numbers right here when x equals 0, y equals 1. So that's this guy right here. And then there's 0.707, there's 0, and so on. And so your cosine curve is just they call it a phase shift off of your sine curve. It keeps going. There's one cycle right there, so that is called one period in 2 pi. There's your cosine period right there. Okay, so properties of the cosine curve. Look, and here it is. This is the one that we just graphed. Cosine curve goes like that, and it keeps going like that. It's just a phase shift over of a sine curve. Okay, the period is 2 pi, the domains, and here's the trick on cosine, you guys. Cosine starts and ends at 1. So here it is, starting and ending at 1, halfway at negative 1, and then halfway at 0. Okay, those are the tricks. starts and ends at 1, halfway at -1, halfway at 0. All right, and then that's a cosine curve. It keeps going and going and going, and we'll talk in the next video.